appendix. Her appendix. Welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons. I'm your host, Small Time Hero. Let's talk As Told by Ginger. The plot of As Told by Ginger is about Ginger. She is a lucky junior high student. She has 3 friends and she's learning to climb the social ladder. Her friends include Macy, Dodie, and Darren. And I guess you could call them geeks, but as you'll see, they kind of grow out of that. Ginger actually has something to look forward to because the it girl at Lucky Junior High School is intrigued with Ginger. Courtney Grippling, who is the it girl of Lucky Junior High School, loves Ginger's gingerisms, as she calls them, and she is super intrigued by her. Courtney has a best friend named Miranda, and from that, they pretty much run the school. Ginger and her friends want to be like Miranda and Ginger, and Courtney likes Ginger. As Told by Ginger takes place in a city in a neighborhood called Sheltered Shrubs. That's where Ginger and her friends live. Darren, Macy, and Dodie. Courtney Grippling and her brother live in Protected Pines, which is like their country club situation. Jonas, which is Ginger's father, her estranged father, actually lives in Brittle Britches. And Sasha, who is Ginger's love interest at one point, actually lives in Heather Hills. So everybody had, like, the whole show has like a tree theme, which I think is really cool. But it's also based off of the neighborhood that Emily Kapnick grew up in, which is called Belmont, Massachusetts. And actually, it's a lot like the place where, well, actually that's where Emily Kapnick grew up. But Sheltered Shrubs is Sheltered Shrubs, Connecticut. So it's actually a real, well, it's based off of a real place in our world. So at Lucky Junior High, you have Ginger, Darren, Dodie, and Macy. And at Lucky Elementary, you have Carl, and you have Hoodsy, and you have Blake Grippling. Get into the characters. So for the main characters, I want to break down the household so that you understand who's related and who's not, okay? So let's get into it. We're going to go with the Foutley household. So in the Foutley household, we have Ginger Foutley, who is our main character. She is who the show is all about. And Ginger is 13 going on 14, and she goes to Lucky Junior High School. Carl Foutley. Carl is Ginger's gross little brother. So Lois Foutley is Ginger and Carl's mom. She's a nurse, and she is a single mom, which is actually kind of a new thing to deal with in the Nickelodeon show, so I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, so Lois is a single mom. Jonas lives in the neighborhood, but he isn't in the house, so I don't count him as the household. All right, so let's go to the Bishop household. The Bishops. In the Bishop household, you have Dodie Bishop, you have Robert Joseph Hoodsy Bishop, you have Joanne Bishop, you have David Charles Bishop in the Bishop household. And Joanne Bishop is the matriarch of the household. She is an uptight mother. She does not like her children's friends. She does not like Lois Foutley, she does not like Ginger Foutley, and she definitely does not like Carl Foutley. But Dodie is Ginger's best friend, and Carl and Hoodsy are best friends, so you see how that goes. We don't really actually see Dodie and Carl's dad that often. Let's go into the Grippling household. So in the Grippling household, you have Prescott Grippling, Blake Grippling, and Winston. Winston is their maid, chauffeur, all of the above, I guess. Also, Courtney is the it girl at Lucky Junior High School. Blake is not as popular as his sister at Lucky Elementary. He actually annoys a lot of people at Lucky Elementary, so we'll say he's annoying, but he does want to actually be friends with Carl. You can tell that he actually wants to be friends with Carl, kind of like Courtney wants to be friends with Ginger. But Carl doesn't want to be friends with Blake, and he only sees Blake as someone to use. Claire Grippling is the Grippling's matriarch. She is, what I will say, a bit full of herself. We do see her a few times in episodes where they're solely about her and not necessarily about the kids, so you take that for what you will. Prescott Grippling, we actually do not see him until the end of the show. Like, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, but I swear we didn't see Prescott Grippling until the end of the show. The Kilgallen residence. So in the Kilgallen residence, it's just Miranda Kilgallen and her father, Mr. Kilgallen, or Officer Kilgallen. So we actually meet Miranda's dad in the very first episode because he is the person who arrests Ginger and Ginger the juvie. We also see Miranda's father when Miranda and Darren actually go off to military school. So Miranda's father is very present, but her mother isn't mentioned at all, actually. So yeah, there's that. In the Patterson household, so I just want to say that the black characters' parents, from what I kind of understand, don't have names. Like Miranda's dad name is like Drill Sergeant Kilgallen and Officer Kilgallen, and Mr. and Mrs. Patterson are referred to as Mr. and Mrs. Patterson. I could be wrong. Tell me what you know in the comments, because from what the research that I've done, they don't have names. So Mrs. Patterson is a very, very understanding mom. She seems to understand Darren's sensitivities, which Darren feels like his father and his brother don't actually understand. Darren, on the other hand, is a sweet guy. He is sensitive. He really, really cares about his friends. Even when like he isn't actually in a relationship with Ginger, he is really like, he cares about the way Ginger treats Dodie. I think that's a huge deal. From Darren Patterson to Will Patterson. So Will Patterson is your stereotypical jock. He is the older Patterson brother, and he is at Lucky High School. He is actually the object of Courtney's eye, which I thought was very interesting, that like they wouldn't give their parents names, but Courtney is into the black character. But anyway, we'll push past that. Anyway, so Courtney actually has a huge crush on Will. Will is on the football team. He is actually in a French class, we find out, and he is your stereotypical jock, along with Mr. Patterson, who is also a jock and also has a really big worry that Darren might be a little too soft. And two of Ginger's teachers, but I did want to talk about Gordo, but we're going to talk about Gordo in Gordo's episode, which is Gordo is Carl's teacher, whom he gives hell. Ms. Zorski is Ginger's favorite teacher. She is her lit teacher. She encourages Ginger to write. She's also kind of a family friend, because anytime the Foutleys have a party or they're celebrating anything, they actually invite Ms. Zorski, which I thought was interesting. Mr. Celia actually is Ginger's science teacher, and he is one of those people who also believes in Ginger and thinks that she can do anything that she sets her mind to. And Mr. Celia is a big part of the reason why Ginger loves science. Alright, let's talk key episodes. So we're going to be breaking down these key episodes season by season. The first 2 seasons, you're probably going to know what episodes I'm talking about, but season 3, you're going to be like, when the hell did that happen? So I'll tell you all about it. Let's get into it. So in season 1, one of the very first episodes is a very much a key episode. It literally sets up what this show is about and how far Ginger is willing to go to be popular, and also get Courtney a birthday gift. Ginger to Juvie. Our next key episode is Sleep On It. In Sleep On It, Courtney actually throws a sleepover after hearing Ginger, Dodie, and Macy talking about their annual sleepovers. But instead of inviting all of them, she only invites Ginger, and Ginger actually goes, with Macy and Dodie encouraging her to go because they want to see how the other side lives. In Of Lice and Friends, we actually are introduced to how far Dodie goes when she feels like she has a little bit of power. So there's a epidemic of lice going around Lucky Junior High School, and Courtney and Miranda have this great idea that they're going to basically keep the lice away by staying as clean as possible. And if you're grown, you know that that's the worst thing you can do, because lice love clean, straight hair. But that's what Courtney and Miranda decide to do. He ends up getting lice. In the same breath, Dodie is actually the morning announcements person, which it kind of fluctuates throughout the school because it was just Chet Zipper. Dodie is the morning announcements person, and she basically is about to tell everybody that Courtney has lice. And we just see how far Dodie goes with the power that she has. Hello Stranger. So in Hello Stranger, we actually find out Jonas is around. Jonas being Carl and Ginger's father. Jonas sends Ginger a late graduation gift, or card actually, telling her that he's proud of her. So she decides that she wants him around, and she invites him to her poetry reading. He doesn't actually show up, and Lois, who actually ends up getting sick because she drank some of Carl's sea monsters that he put in the refrigerator, she ends up sending Ginger flowers in order to make sure that her daughter actually, you know, feels loved, because Jonas clearly couldn't do it. The Right Stuff. So in The Right Stuff, we actually find out that while Courtney is definitely intrigued by Ginger's gingerisms, she also doesn't have an issue being friends with Macy. Macy and Courtney actually end up taking a high school French class together because they're so advanced. They end up taking French at the high school. Courtney meets Will Patterson and she develops a crush. So Courtney talks Macy into throwing a pool party while her parents aren't there because her parents are rich and they are out of town. So Macy throws the pool party. Everybody comes over and the high school girls basically try to pull Courtney's top off so that Will would know that she was stuffing her bra, which is like, why do you care? But also, I guess it's just some petty high school shit. But you gonna do that to a middle schooler? Like, what kind of bitch is you? The A ticket. In the A ticket, we actually learned that Ginger is actually a really, really exceptional science student. And Mr. Celia actually partners Ginger up with her crush, Ian Richardson. He is actually really, really excited, which excites Ginger because she's like, oh my God, he actually likes me. He wants to talk to me. Come to find out, he only wanted her because he knew, well, he only wanted to work with her because he knew he was going to get an A. So, yeah. Come back, little Sill girl. In the Comeback Little Sill Girl episode, we actually see Macy stand up to her friends. Macy comes to her friends and tells them that she feels like they should do a Little Sill Girl song at the talent show. And at first, Ginger and Dodie are super excited, but when, you know, everybody, they start hearing about Courtney's song gonna play and things like that, they basically like, no, that's too childish. Macy said, fuck y'all, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And she got up there. And I got a shirt because, like, it's just so epic. She was like, man, fuck this. So Macy actually gets up there and she sings Little Sill Girl and she brings the house down. Does she sound good? No. Is it a good performance? No. But it's just the sheer fuck y'all, I'm gonna do this that makes the episode amazing. Season of Capri. So in the 3-part Season of Capri episode, basically Ginger, Dodie, and Macy go to Camp Capri, which they've been going to since they were children. Ginger, Macy, and Dodie have been talking about going to Camp Capri for a while now, and Courtney actually overheard them talking, and Miranda told Courtney that she basically wouldn't last a day in the wilderness, so Courtney said, fuck it, I'm going to Camp Capri. So Courtney actually ends up going to Camp Capri, and all 4 of the girls are there, and Courtney is driving everyone insane because she's upset, she's mad about being outside without inside plumbing and having to do things at Camp Capri. Like, she's actually really, really annoying in this, like, in that 3-part episode, but she learns a lot, so I can't be mad at it. It was like, she's never done it before. Like, these girls have been going to camp since they were like kids, like in the 1st, 2nd grade, but she had never done it before, so it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, you know, you got to give her grace, kind of. All right, so that wraps up season 1. Let's move into season 2 key episodes. Season 2, Never Can Say Goodbye. Darren gets his headgear off. So when Darren's first introduced, he's introduced with like all of this crazy headgear for his braces, and he actually gets it off, and everybody at Lucky Junior High School is like, oh my God, Darren is hot. Literally, Courtney and Miranda are like, oh my God, have you seen Darren? And as much as Miranda actually hates Ginger and her gang of friends, she was like, nah, I want to date him. And she goes after Darren. Now, it's not like they didn't have anything before. During the 3-part episodes of Camp Capri, Darren and Miranda actually end up going to military camp together, where Miranda's father is the drill sergeant. So they had time to bond and become friends. So I don't want you to just be like, how in the hell that happened? The next episode is Nurse Strike. So Lois is a nurse in Sheltered Shrubs, and the hospital actually isn't taking care of the nurses, so her and a bunch of the other nurses decide to go on strike. And while she's striking, of course, you know, she has 2 kids, she has to take care of 2 kids, so she starts doing odd jobs, which ends up, you know, taking her to cleaning. Because the Gripplings need a cleaner, Miranda finds out that Lois is cleaning, and she tells Courtney to hire Lois. Of course, Ginger is embarrassed, of course, right? But Ginger ends up putting her pride aside and going ahead to clean Courtney's home with her mother. And Courtney and Miranda are just sitting there like, why aren't they embarrassed? Why are they laughing? Why are they having fun? Because you can't break this. Trouble in Gal Pal Land. So Trouble in Gal Pal Land basically is the episode where Courtney and Miranda fall out. Courtney and Miranda have been tight since Ginger, Dodie, and Macy and Darren have been tight. So it's actually kind of crazy to see them fall out the way they did. Essentially, they were just spending too much time together, and that's kind of accents in the episode where Darren actually gets his headgear off and Darren and Miranda start dating. And Miranda, like, she goes through something where she's like really, really missing Courtney, and it's like, it's actually really kind of sad. Like, she couldn't function without Courtney. So this episode is really, it's a key episode because you have to see that dynamic of them two, because you to understand what happens later. But also it's kind of sad because they fall out. Sibling rivalry. So in this episode, Ginger is actually taking on more responsibility at Lucky Junior High School, and she's decided to create a program where kids who are getting into trouble can actually get a big brother from the middle school to come help them and guide them and make them better people. Well, Carl becomes her guinea pig. Isn't it always our little siblings that become our guinea pigs? I don't have a little sibling, but yeah. Carl becomes her first guinea pig, and she gives Carl this like really weird JROTC guy, and he is like terrible. Carl isn't the best kid, but he didn't deserve that. And he like, that episode was kind of crazy because bro was like, after they ended the program, bro was like, nah, I'm still showing up. I need you to be on your best behavior. Like, get out my house, man. Losing Nana Bishop. This episode is actually one of the sadder episodes. Like, we've dealt with loss in this show, but we really delve into grief and like what it looks like to actually grieve someone dying. And this episode is heavy. Nana Bishop is Dodie and Carl's Nana, and she passes. She's actually their father's mother. And she passes, and like when they tell Hoodie that she passed, he's like kind of like, okay, that's cool, you know, it ain't no big deal. Nana Bishop was this person, you know, she was old, she was gonna pass anyway. And I think that's such a huge theme with grief, like especially as kids with older people, like when they die, like it's like, okay, but your grandparents are supposed to pass. But like in that episode, like as it's ending, literally like goes through this catharsis and starts crying, and he's expressing himself, and he's realizing, no, I'm gonna miss my grandmother. And that's one of those things where it's just like, that's real life. Like, things don't hit you till they hit you, and when they do, they slap you in the face like, get up, bitch, bow. You know what I'm saying? So that's always a big thing. And I think that episode is a really good depiction of what grief looks like, especially with kids. Mrs. Fowley's boys. So Lois starts dating, and Ginger is not excited about who she's dating, but she is excited that her mother is dating, because Dr. Fond Feelings has Ginger thinking that her mom is going to end up alone and sad. So that's like a big deal. And so Lois starts to date the guy who got the mold out of their house, and he has sons. And at first she's like, yeah, I got kids, you got kids, we can kind of make this work. His kids have no home training. Kids literally have no home training, which is kind of crazy, honestly. Family therapy. In family therapy, we actually meet Bobby and Bobby Lightfoot, which is Macy Lightfoot's parents. They're both therapists, and they own a therapy practice called Bobby and Bobby. Bobby with an I, Bobby with a Y. So Macy's birthday comes, and she's really, really excited to turn 13. And basically, like, her parents forget her whole birthday. And Macy doesn't have the strength to stand up to her parents, although she does seem like one of those people who's outgoing, you know, just enough to make her seem like a good person. But like, she does not have the strength to tell her parents. So Ginger takes it upon herself to tell Macy's parents what's going on and why she feels the way she feels. Her parents acknowledge that they missed her birthday, but instead of actually trying to make it up to her, they try to make it up to a 3-year-old. Which causes us to kind of question if they know their child, or if anybody is actually paying attention to Macy. Mommy Nearest. In Mommy Nearest, Claire Grippling is in the hospital because she has an infection because of a facelift. Most of Claire Grippling's storylines are like this. Courtney ends up spending time at Ginger's house, which causes Courtney to spend time with Lois. And Lois and Courtney develop like a mother-daughter kind of relationship, and Ginger is annoyed and jealous. But honestly, it kind of makes sense because Courtney is so enamored with Ginger that she would honestly be enamored with her mother. But Mrs. Fowley isn't necessarily like, oh, I like Courtney more than I like you. She's just like, yeah, I mean, she needed, you know, that's what you do as a parent. Driven to extremes. So in the episode Driven to Extremes, Ms. Zorsky is out. she is out for like maybe a few days, maybe like a week, and they have a sub called Mrs. Gardner. Miss Gardner is the worst acting teacher ever. Like, they wrote her so terrible that like everybody, they wrote her kind of like Umbridge was wrote. If you ever watched Harry Potter, like she was written like that. And so the kids snap. And basically they decide to egg her house, and they do TP and egg her house. Although Ginger has like feelings about it. She's like, I don't really want this to happen because it's not right, but also you suck. So Ginger kind of stops her classmates from doing all of these things, but still ends up in trouble. And they find out that they aren't the first class to egg her house. So yeah, that episode was kind of crazy. And in our last key episode for season 2, No Hope for Courtney. So in this episode, there is a girl named Hope Rogers who really wants to be popular. She wants to be the new lucky junior high it girl. And Courtney basically pays Hope dust. She pays her absolute dust and gives her nothing. And Hope takes that and builds upon it. Honestly, she like takes what Courtney's giving and she takes it and turns it into energy and becomes Lucky Junior High's new it girl. Basically takes Courtney down a few pegs, which is actually kind of funny. Although I don't hate Courtney. Like, Courtney is not the stereotypical it girl or popular girl. She like actually kind of like, she's uppity, but she kind of has an idea that there's other people in this world and they live a different way than I do, and she seems to be open to that. So I don't hate Courtney. Season 3, Foully's on Ice, part 1, 2, and 3. So this does count for 3 episodes, but I would like to explain the A plot and the B plot separately though. Okay, so in the B plot, Carl, Noelle, and Hoodsy are getting ready to go to the freak show. They have entered Noelle into the freak show, and they are going to have Noelle use her powers in the freak show so that they can win. And I think they win some money. I can't remember exactly how much. In the A plot, Ginger is accepted into Avalanche Performing Arts School. And she's really excited. So she tells her friends, well, she initially told her friends that she was applying, and Dodie was like, you're not gonna get in, you can't get in, girl, you don't belong there, girl. Okay. So Dodie was basically like, why you want to go there? We all supposed to be together, this is not on our plan, what are you doing? And Ginger is rightfully upset because, I mean, while you are friends, you have to do things that you want to do or that, you know, are for you as a person. You can't live your life for your friends. You'll always be stuck in a situation with them. Also, Ginger is a very talented artist, or a very talented writer, so she deserves opportunities if she can get them. So Miranda and Mipsy actually overhear Ginger telling her friends that she applied, and they were like, oh, we get her up out of here, we get her the fuck up out of here. So they basically have Mipsy call her uncle and tell her uncle that to get Ginger involved and to pay for the funding. And Ginger ends up going to Avalanche Academy. While at Avalanche Academy, Ginger starts to get out of her comfort zone. She dyes her hair a little pink, and she do a whole lot. Like, she's learning, and she's, you know, doing what you're supposed to do when you go away to school. And her friends are very upset. Dodie is trying to figure out how in the hell she got into the school. Like, it's actually kind of disrespectful at this point. But yeah, Dodie is trying to figure out how in the hell she got into the school. So it's just kind of crazy. But Carl, Noelle, and Hoodsy actually never make it to the freak show. They get off the bus and then they're chased by something and end up lost in the woods. Noelle ends up saving Carl, letting him know that she does actually care about him and does actually like him. So Noelle saves Carl, everything is okay. They finally make it back home. But that's not the end of that's not the end of that. So at Avalanche, basically Dodie figures out that Miranda and Macy had something to do with Ginger getting into Avalanche, and they tell Ginger, and basically she pisses Ginger off because, like, Ginger like, okay, I'm here, but like, whatever. So Darren, who we have not talked about, decides that he has a thing for Ginger, and he's going to express himself and tell her that he loves her. He takes a train to Avalanche Academy to tell Ginger how he feels. Well, everything kind of goes awry because when he gets there, Ginger kind of like, get away from me type thing, because she's upset with Dodie and Macy. Also, Mipsy's cousin is Ginger's roommate, who is actually encouraging Ginger to stay where she is. So all of that goes on, and it's a whole lot that I can't actually get into, or else I'll take up too much time. Dolly's on Ice, all 3 parts. Yeah. Wicked Game. So in Wicked Game, Ginger actually ends up coming back, and her and Darren start dating, and Darren and Ginger are happily dating. And of course, because they're dating, they're doing a lot more things together that Dodie and Macy may feel like should be girl only things. And because of that, Dodie and Macy decide to betray Ginger, and basically they called the guy that Ginger likes at Avalanche and had him call her back while Darren was at her house, and they were trying to break up Darren and Ginger. This is the reason why I say Dodie and Macy aren't great friends, but it's more Dodie than Macy, but Macy was part of this, so I'm not gonna leave her out. About Face. So in About Face, Joanne Bishop starts substituting at Lucky Junior High, and Dodie is very upset about it, actually incredibly upset about it, which I understand, knowing Joanne, because Joanne clearly doesn't like children because she hates her children's friends. But Joanne does start teaching, and she turns into JoJo. And in that situation, she's trying to hang out with Courtney and Miranda, and she's not even taking social cues that they don't like her. She's just like, whatever, y'all like me, let's go hang. And like at the same breath, she's like, Dodie, why aren't you popular? You should be popular, blah, blah, blah. Like her mother is actually giving her ass to kiss. And it's actually crazy because Dodie will literally do anything to be popular. So she has a moment where she gets to see like, oh, maybe that's not the way to go. No Turning Back part 1 and 2. So season 3 has a few parter episodes. No Turning Back episode 1 and 2. Ginger is about to give her commencement speech at Lucky Junior High School. The kids are heading to high school, guys. So Ginger decides that she wants to talk to her friends and, gather those moments that, held them tight. And honestly, she can't connect with any of her friends. And she spends like both episodes wondering what will happen, if like what will happen to me and my friends if we fall apart, if we don't stay friends at high school, and those questions that everyone has moving into a new chapter of their life. Heat Lightning. So in the Heat Lightning episode, Dodie, Macy, Ginger, and Courtney return to Camp Capri and become camp counselors. And I think this is like one of those things that most kids who went away actually can understand. Like once you get to a certain age, you become camp counselors. And we just go through the episode of learning like how the girls have grown and what they do and how Dodie handles leadership, because she doesn't do it well. And you just see the girls grow up. And I think that was a really good episode of the growth, to show the growth in the show. In the episode Stuff Will Kill Ya, we actually find out that Ginger develops a caffeine addiction from a sports drink. And it's really actually a really big episode to me, because honestly, the stuff will kill you. Like it really will. And like later on, she has like some health issues, and I really would like to know if those health issues are related to the caffeine addiction that she developed. But yeah, so trying to keep up with all of her high school duties now that they're in high school and they made it there, she honestly she needs things to keep her up. She's trying to do homework at night, trying to be up in the morning. She has band practice. She's just doing a lot, and she develops a caffeine habit. I can't say that in high school I had a caffeine. I don't drink coffee now, so I really can't relate to that part, but I do know that like trying to balance things will have you sucking on energy drinks heavy. So let's move on. Detention. So in this episode, I think this is like the beginning of the end of Darren and Ginger. Like just from the perspective of how their relationship falls apart. So Ginger and Darren haven't actually been spending a whole lot of time together now that they're in high school. Ginger joined a band and Darren is on the football team, which he did say that wasn't something he was interested in. But of course, if you're good, you're good. And the coach saw that he was a Patterson, so yay, come on. And because they aren't actually spending time together, they're growing apart. And Ginger falls asleep in the new Miss Zorski's class, which isn't her family friend, but she gets detention. And because she gets detention, she can't actually go and attend Darren's game. So she has the bright idea to send Dodie, dressed as her in a ginger wig and Darren's shirt, and pretend to be Ginger. Darren actually sees Dodie, but he doesn't realize that she's supposed to be Ginger. He just sees Dodie, which tells you how bad the fucking costume was. They just weren't thinking. Anyway, so Darren asked Dodie and Macy, he's like, oh, cool, Ginger wig, where's Ginger? And Ginger's in detention. And honestly, he's crushed because she didn't come to his football game, but really she could have just told him what was going on and that she had gotten detention and that she couldn't go, but she didn't. And honestly, that fucked up their communication, honestly. So yeah, it's today goodbye. So Dr. Dave has already proposed to Lois, and Lois is actually actively dealing with his mother. And in this episode, her and Carl actually go house hunting because her and Dave want to find a house that they can move into and, you know, actually have a nice house because he is a doctor. So Lois basically takes Carl to see a bunch of joke houses, and Carl is really frustrated with her because he's taking it serious. I think they kind of like make Carl like serious, like get more serious and kind of grow up as Dr. Dave enters the house. And I don't know if it's Dr. Dave, but I think it's cool. Lois is like, what's wrong with you? You used to love this kind of stuff, and all the gross things that you used to love, you don't do anymore. And Carl is basically like, it's time to grow up, Lois. Like literally, he was just like, I can't do the gross out things that I want to do anymore. And Dr. Dave is encouraging him to be better, and he just wants to be better. And I love this out of Carl because usually when kids grow up, it just happens. But he's like acknowledging it, which Carl is smart, so I feel like he would acknowledge it. So yeah, a lesson in tightrope. Her appendix burst. Okay, so in A Lesson in Tightrope, a lot of people remember this episode because Ginger's appendix burst. And that's not the worst. Well, it's the worst thing that happens in the episode, but literally Darren breaks up with her. So in Kiss Today Goodbye, Dodie finds out that Darren has been flirting with the head cheerleader and threatens to tell Ginger if he doesn't. So, in true Darren fashion, he tells her, and when he does break up with her, Ginger's appendix bursts. She doesn't know that it actually burst, but like she goes home and she's feeling crazy and sick and things like that. And she's just like, no, it's the heartbreak. Darren broke up with me. I'm feeling like this because of Darren. But no, her appendix burst. And so she goes to the hospital, and there's this really, really powerful moment from Lois. Lois is like, oh my God, I'm so focused on everything else going on around me. My child almost died, and I didn't have any idea. And I think that was like one of the big Lois moments where I was like, damn. Like, the show really made me go, damn. Like, so yeah, that whole episode was crazy, and everything that was going on around it was insane. And it had been leading up all season, especially from the detention episode. Like I told you, they break up, and Darren is actually really, really grief stricken. And so Ginger ends up going to the hospital. Like, Dr. Dave actually ends up doing Ginger's surgery, and he saves her life. And it's actually a switch in Carl that actually happens because Jonas shows up, and Ginger is really, really excited to see Jonas. And Dr. Dave does seem a little upset that she's excited to see her dad overseeing him, but you know, there's one of those things with like stepdaddy type situations. But Carl is like, fuck Jonas, he didn't do shit. Like literally, Carl is like, fuck him. And like, nah, I'm really happy that you were here, Dave, because you saved my sister. And Carl is the only person that actually acknowledges that, and I think that was a big deal. The wedding frame. So we finally reached the last episode, but it's an hour-long episode, so it's a 3-parter. And it's a lot of shit that goes on, so let's just try and hold on and talk about it. So in the wedding frame, Lois and Dr. Dave are finally getting married. Ginger is in Lois's wedding, and so is Carl. And Carl and Hoosie actually see Dr. Dave with this woman who is supposed to be someone that Dr. Dave dated while he was in medical school, named Diane. But actually her name is Nikki Laporte, who is actually a man dressed up as a woman, who's dressed up as Diane, who's supposed to be trying to make Dave think that she wants him back. And so she shows up at their wedding and she objects. Like, no, he was just with me. I got the pictures to show it and prove it. So they give the pictures to Lois and she faints. Like, Lois like, I'm out of here. Can't do it. Take me on up there, Lord. So Lois actually like faints, and everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. Come to find out, Nikki Laporte was hired by Mrs. Dave, Dr. Dave's mom, to break up their marriage and basically embarrass Lois. Also, I want to point out that Joanne Bishop the whole time was like, I knew it. I knew it was too good to be true. I knew he didn't. Like, she literally is a hater. Dodie's mom is a hater. But yeah, so all of this is going on in the wedding frame, and guess who shows up to save the day? Noelle Sussman. And Noelle shows up and she's like, absolutely not. That's not Diane. That's Nikki Laporte, aka It's a Man. All of this was set up by Mrs. Dave. And Noelle saves the wedding. And Dr. Dave and Lois get married. And Orion, who is Ginger's new love interest, and Ginger kiss. And Darren and Simone, who is Darren's new love interest, the girl that Darren cheated on Ginger with, they're at the wedding too. But after the wedding is over, we actually find out that Prescott Grippling has been like doing something illegal with the stock trading that he was doing, and he is going to jail. So the Gripplings moving out of their house, and Blake comes by and he's like, hey, do you think it's possible if we could like rent your house out? Because they wanted to sell their house, so they rent their house to the Gripplings, and now the Foutley/Daves move into Protected Pines. So literally the family switch. Prescott goes to jail, so now Claire is a single mother. And it's just like all of that, which I thought was kind of crazy because Courtney had been preparing for that her whole life just by trying to hang out with Ginger. So after all of that is taken care of, then you actually see where Ginger is sitting in a coffee shop and she's reading her book as told by Ginger. And you see Dr. Dave and Lois in the back. You see Carl and Hoodsy sitting next to each other, all grown up. Carl and Hoodsy are news reporters. You see Hoodsy and Macy sitting next to each other because they got married. You see Dodie and Chet Zipper sitting next to each other, married with a child. And then you see Darren sitting there with a baby girl who has red hair and mixed skin. And literally, I'm about to cry, but literally it was the best ending ever. Like, it took 21 years to get that ending, and they stuck it. Honestly, I'm glad Darren and Ginger actually worked it out. Let's get into some of the facts that were going on as the show was being produced. One of the great things about As Told by Ginger is like the way they took the animation and created something very different. The characters in the shows had their own wardrobes. They changed clothes every episode. We grew with the characters. Like I said, I started watching As Told by Ginger when I was a junior high student, and I grew with As Told by Ginger just like the show did. And I thought that was like what kept me enthralled. Even watching it back now, I'm like, oh yeah, like it's nostalgic in a way that you can relate as a child, and if you're a parent, you can definitely relate to Lois. So I say, watch As Told by Ginger. It's a really good cartoon. And that's been Saturday Morning Cartoons. I'm your host, Small Time Hero. Make sure you subscribe, like, hit that bell for notifications, and come party with us every Saturday at 9 a.m.